Tonight, a WESH 2 News exclusive. Our National Investigative Unit has spent the past 6 months uncovering the prevalence of hate in our communities, the true scope of the threat, and recourses needed to combat it. Now, we need to let you know that some of the language in this story is disturbing. Now,
Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert begins our investigation. Hate in the Homeland.
This is Tristan Webb, and this is his voice.
I think that the Jews, they are just a parasitical race. And I mean, I don't believe the Holocaust happened. I wish it did happen.
It's the voice of hate in the Homeland. Webb is a 19-year-old from Michigan. This interview with him has never been heard before. An exclusive part of Season 2 of the Sounds Like Hate podcast, debuting worldwide on Wednesday.
They tried to get therapists to talk to me. They tried to suspend me. They tried to do whatever they could to stop, me, de-radicalize me and everything. And it just didn't work. It just made me more secure in what I was doing. And it worked. I mean, I got a group of people around and got people to wake up.
On tape, Webb brags of founding a group called Aryan Resistance and resisting his own family when confronted.
Oh, yeah, no, it didn't work at all. I think no one wants to hear, oh, you're wrong, you need to stop this. You're evil, you're right, because it just makes you more sure in yourself.
My mother is Jewish, and I'm sitting here listening to this man talking about the fact that the Holocaust didn't even exist. It's infuriating. But
Jamila Peksima and her team convinced Webb to talk, the sound of his views becoming a canary in a very dark coal mine.
I think this is a huge problem in our communities we've avoided talking about, and it's time to address it.
I didn't know if I was going to make it out alive or not.
They put their hands on me.
It's so dehumanizing.
I was really at risk for my life.
These are the voices of the survivors of hate, and there are more every day. In the most recent year available, hate crimes in America rose to the highest level in a decade, with 20 a day. Hate-motivated killings, highest in nearly 30 years. And hate crimes targeting Asian Americans soaring 169%.
How many hate groups are you tracking right now?
In 2020, 866.
Susan Cork is with the Southern Poverty Law Center. We spoke with her at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial on the National Mall. 58 years after King's March on Washington, his fierce urgency of now remains.
The classic neo-Nazi Ku Klux Klan, there's the white supremacist, white nationalist groups, and then there's the more mainstream groups, the anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim, anti-LGBTQ, anti-Semitic.
More than 800. That sounds like a lot.
It is a lot, and it's scary. Yeah, it's a frightening number. I feel like our country is at a reckoning. Hate crimes are vastly underreported. Most of the vulnerable communities do not feel safe reporting it to the police. That is a national emergency.
Here's why. The FBI says only 14% of law enforcement agencies nationwide report hate crimes to its federal database. 14%. So we asked more than 14,000 police chiefs and sheriffs in all 50 states whether they think it should be required. Of those who responded to our exclusive National Investigative Unit survey, 81% said hate crimes reporting should be mandatory. Yet 4 in 10 told us hate crime reporting, in their view, is insufficient now. And only 2% of those agencies that responded said they have a dedicated hate crimes unit.
Do lawmakers in state houses around the nation need to do more?
Absolutely.
Allison Padilla Goodman is vice president of the Southern Division at the Anti-Defamation League. We met her outside the Capitol in Georgia, which finally passed a hate crimes bill into law last year. These 3 states still do not have a traditional hate crimes law: Wyoming, Arkansas, and South Carolina. And those states, along with 17 more, do not require data collection on hate crimes, according to the Justice Department.
Look, we cannot understand truly the landscape of hate and the landscape of hate crimes when we have faulty data. We need for state lawmakers to really grasp and understand the impact of hate crimes and really commit to getting reporting right.
An effort to counteract the voices spewing hate in our homeland.
We need to find the next Martin Luther King in each and every one of us that we're willing to stand up and fight together.
In Washington, I'm Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert.
This week, our National Investigative Unit has uncovered the rise of hate in our country and how hateful content online is now a booming business.
And tonight we show you what's being done to stop it in communities all across America. Here's Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert in Washington with our investigation, Hate in the Homeland.
At that time, no other day besides this one has brought me such joy and happiness.
Second Lieutenant Richard Collins III took an oath that day to stand watch over his country. When he wouldn't stand down, wouldn't yield to a white man holding a knife in his hand and hate in his heart, Collins died, killed by 22-year-old Sean Urbanski. Collins had just taken that oath to his country 2 days before his murder. Dawn and Rick Collins, Richard's parents, spoke to us in the same hall at Bowie State University where their only son took his oath.
And this is him at one of the military balls. So he was all about the service.
Collins's murder and his parents' advocacy led the state of Maryland to expand the definition of a hate crime last year. At the time of Collins's death, the law was too narrow to also try Urbanski of a hate crime charge, even though the judge said at sentencing, quote, "The logical conclusion is that race was a factor."
It's well past time for this nation to live up to its credo that we're all created equal.
You go to sleep thinking, what is it that I can do to further this cause and this passion that's in the very bowels of me? Can't stop, won't stop.
With their foundation,
to rid this wonderful country of the hate,
they use their voice to push for more preventative measures and stiffer deterrence.
We can't be quiet.
Others are speaking up now, too. Police chiefs and sheriffs across the country told us they're launching new initiatives to combat the rise in hate. From dedicated units at a department in Pennsylvania and in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
It's invaluable to me. It's priceless.
To a social media campaign at a department in Texas, to new training for officers at a city in Missouri, and to a human relations committee in Maynard, Massachusetts.
The more information people have, the less hate there will be.
The chiefs and sheriffs outlined those new programs in their responses to our exclusive National Investigative Unit survey we sent to 14,000 law enforcement agencies in all 50 states. But of those who responded, only 15% said they were starting new hate initiatives, and more than 4 in 10, 42%, admitted they don't know if hate incidents in their own communities have increased or decreased, leaving a knowledge gap, experts say, waiting to be filled. But we've learned help is on the way.
This is what the screen looks like when you first enter a hate crime.
Correct.
Dr. Jeff Grunwald, director of the Terrorism Research Center at the University of Arkansas, helps run the Extremist Crime Database, partly funded by the U.S. Justice Department. It catalogs hate crimes and later this year will expand for the first time to cover plots as well, giving law enforcement and prosecutors a new resource to fight hate in the homeland.
We can give them the tools in order to identify patterns that are indicative of escalation of violence.
If you don't know what to look for, how can you prevent the next attack?
Exactly. The only way to know what to look for is to create these large-scale relational databases and study them in depth.
You can't walk away from this.
Rick and Dawn Collins return to the site of their son's murder often, every year at the exact moment of their son's death. Soon, a memorial will be placed here, just as permanent as the family's mission against hate.
We're still fighting, and we will continue to fight because we are patriots and we are Americans, and we're not going to let anyone tell us any different.
The Collins family still standing watch.
Love you, baby boy.
In Washington, I'm Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert.
Back now with a nationwide exclusive right here on Pittsburgh's Action News 4. Our National Investigative Unit has been uncovering the rise of hate in our country and what's being done to stop it.
Now, the FBI reveals to us new steps it plans to launch this summer to combat hate. Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert has the nationwide exclusive you'll see only on 4.
This is the sound hate could not silence. The flame of faith is still being lit here at Temple Emmanuel Synagogue in Pueblo, Colorado. Richard Holzer tried and failed to snuff it out in an act of hate, telling undercover agents he wanted to, quote, get that place off the map. In February, a judge sentenced him to 19 years in prison.
We're not going to hide.
Mike Atlas-Acuna is president of Colorado's second oldest Jewish congregation. He's the one who told Rabbi Bertie Becker of the planned bombing that day in 2019.
What went through your mind?
I was incredulous. We've been here since the 1800s. We're not going anywhere. It's hard for me to understand how someone could hate that much.
Holzer repeatedly expressed his hatred for Jewish people.
The attempted attack is now a rallying cry for the Justice Department's number 3 leader, who used it last month to press FBI agents, prosecutors, and intelligence analysts to combat the rise of hate in the homeland, starting with talking to those in blue.
Approach each and every law enforcement agency in your district that reports zero hate crimes or does not participate in hate crimes reporting.
That outreach to local police in communities across the country is just one of several FBI initiatives launching this summer.
Put in the work.
Omar Montgomery, head of a local NAACP chapter here, is one of the community leaders who will be watching that outreach.
We know that there's a huge distrust between the African American community and law enforcement. Once the reporting is taken seriously and there's a thorough investigation, we can begin to heal those gaps between the community and law enforcement.
Do you have enough resources right now to fight hate crimes?
Deputy Assistant Director Jay Greenberg is leading the Bureau's new anti-hate effort, now designated a national threat priority.
There's never enough resources.
Greenberg detailed for us 6 new initiatives. All current FBI agents will get added hate crimes training. New agents will get it at the FBI Academy. Fresh outreach to community groups. Contacting every local law enforcement agency that has not reported hate crimes data to ask why. Additional help to local police to report and investigate hateful acts. And a nationwide anti-hate ad campaign, in part to encourage often reluctant victims to come forward.
Rebuilding community trust in the law enforcement that's there to support them and ensuring that those communities will bring forward these reports of hate incidents and hate crimes so that we can help address it with them.
But some of those people you must know don't trust you.
Some of those people today might not trust us. And although there have been bad actors who have made poor decisions in times of crisis or brought that and tarnished our badges, that is not representative of law enforcement nationwide, and we would ask for the community to give us a chance to prove that.
Greenberg invited us to join him in Denver as he oversaw the first of the FBI's new hate crime and civil rights training conferences. We were the only journalists allowed in, and we watched as speakers stressed the urgency of the moment.
We are faced with a crisis of hate in this country.
This is the first conference of its kind, right?
That's correct.
Mike Schneider heads the Denver field office in a state with a 74% increase in hate crimes.
That statistic is, I think, demonstrates that we have a lot more work to do.
No one knows the struggle against hate better than the Shepherds. 23 years after homophobic attackers beat their gay son Matthew, strapping him to a Wyoming fence and leaving him to die, hate is ascendant across the homeland. So Judy and Dennis Shepard came here to Denver to speak directly to the agents on the front lines.
The trust that you build in these various communities is critical.
We are a family who lost a son to hate in the most violent, brutal way imaginable. This should not be happening to any family. So what we're hoping is that by storytelling of what we went through, that they might have a better understanding of what other folks are experiencing as victims of hate crime.
As a chief, you may not have bias, but the people below you, your staff, your officers, your office personnel may have that. And they said no. I thought about it and said, you know, you're right. And I need to start setting the example myself, and I apologize. And this is in a major city.
They apologized to you.
police chief did, yes.
The sound of penance from one chief and a chorus of resilience from communities that refuse to extinguish their faith, no matter how strong hate blows.
I know that what's happening now in the country will eventually die off and we'll see better times, because that's who we are as Americans.
In Pueblo, Colorado, I'm Chief National Investigative Correspondent Mark Albert.